welcome. Today is Thursday, April 13th, 2023.
Your mic isn't on.
It is 7 p.m. on Thursday, April 13th, 2023. Welcome to the Maplewood Heritage Preservation Commission. And first, we'll go through our roll call. John Gasper. Yeah. Nikki is not here. Oh, she is here. Thanks, Nikki. And David. Here. And Barbara.
Here.
And Laura.
Here.
And Richard.
Yes,
We have a full quorum, all in attendance. We'll move on to approve the agenda, or approve the agenda. Are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Is there a motion to approve? Is there a motion? All right, there's a motion. Is there a second to approve the agenda as prepared?
Second.
Thank you. We'll move on to approve the minutes from February 9, 2023. Any changes or corrections? Is there a motion to approve the minutes as prepared?
So move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
second.
All right. We will move on to new business, which is DEI workshop review. Joe Sharon.
Okay, for folks who might be watching or unfamiliar, the city of Maplewood back in 2016 started on an endeavor noticing that our community was changing rapidly, and to make sure that both the employees and the people we serve were better connected. We started a cultural agility program that turned into the MORE team, the Maplewood Organization for Racial Equity. We've done a number of things over the last 6 years to sort of make good on some of the goals we had set out. And one of the things we wanted to do was to train all of the employees in basic cultural agility, understanding who our new demographic is, and our new demographic has changed in a variety of ways. In one way, we saw from the workshop that we've become an older demographic, and we've become more diverse, especially among our Asian populations. We've doubled from 8 or 9% in 2010 to almost 18% in 2020. But then beyond that, understanding that within the Asian culture, the way the census populates numbers, that one group is not sort of a monolith of all groups. And to understand everyone kind of brings their own unique skills, traits, talents to the table, and to make sure that everyone understands the folks in our community. So I think all of our members, with the exception of one who was kind of snowed in, unfortunately, at another training, made it. So at this point, Chair, I'll see if anyone else wants to make any specific comments about the DEI or the agility workshop training that we had last month.
Thank you, Joe. That's a nice report that you have in our packet. Any comments or anyone want to say anything about that workshop? I know Richard was there, John was there, David was there, Laura was there. Barbara had a class, didn't you?
I had a conference.
And I was there. And our staff person, Joe Sharon, set that up. Thank you. Okay. We'll move on to historic bridges. Joe Sharon.
Okay, so MnDOT, in association with the SHPO, had put out a request to see if anyone in their service area had any bridges between 1975 and 2000, or either 1975 to 2000, to see if any bridges could have had any kind of historic designation. I checked with our city engineering team, and there were no bridges in Maplewood that fit that criteria. We do have one bridge that probably has the most significance, because I think it was one of the last remaining bridges. It's the Sterling Street Bridge that was just replaced last year. But unfortunately, they weren't asking for those types of bridges. It was bridges where some type of an event or something happened, or the bridge itself was of some structural need to protect or recognize, and none in our city meet that criteria.
Thank you. Richard?
Okay, on the bridges, this commission worked back on the Frost Avenue Bridge. We were told that the foundation of that bridge was about ready to collapse. Well, I was talking with the contractor, and they said they had all they could do to take that bridge apart. That was built during the WPA. The other bridge that's is the same way, is the one that goes across the Gateway Trail. So those two should have been the same. The one, our famous mayor at the time, both sides of the Frost Avenue Bridge were supposed to look the same. He changed the north side of it to just plain.
Okay, thank you. It does say MnDOT had previously conducted inventories of historic bridges constructed in 1970 and earlier. The most recent study evaluation report and historical context Minnesota Bridges 1955 through 1970 was completed in July of 2013. History of bridges built during the current study period and evaluation criteria report are available upon request from the project team. If you have information about a potential significant bridge in your community between 1971 and 1995, please tell us about it. Richard, you can do that?
That was the ones that I just talked about.
Yes. you
Yeah,
can-
so my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is they were only asking about bridges from 1975 through 1995, and we hadn't really constructed much. We've only constructed one bridge that's listed there between 1975 and 1995. The three other reconstructs were done in the 2000s.
Well, the only bridge that I know of that they redid was the Frost Avenue Bridge.
Several of the bridges, after doing the geodatabase work I've been doing, confirming what's been demolished, what's still standing, on the SHPO inventory, 2 of the bridges had been considered eligible, but those have since been replaced. So the 2 that could have met the eligibility criteria don't stand anymore. So I can confirm from the inventory review.
Yeah, but that Gateway Trail should still stand because that was built during the work projects, WPA work project era. You know, that has something significant. It's not one that the state just slapped together.
If it's been replaced in part, it can no longer be eligible, which sounds like it has been partially been replaced. So it's not a full intact bridge from its time anymore. And WPA is before 1971, so it wouldn't qualify for that either.
Well, then, why even have any of this list? Because looking through it, everything says not qualified.
Joe, could you tell us who called for this?
Well, here's the situation. SHPO MnDOT is doing a bridge inventory. So MnDOT is inventorying every bridge in the state between 1971 and 1995. SHPO had asked us to help MnDOT out. If you have anything that you want MnDOT to look at and be on the list, let us know. I checked with our bridge folks. Anything between 71, built between 71 and 95, there was nothing there to show of historic significance. And so that's why, you know, I understand the point about the Gateway Trail Bridge, but it's beyond the time that MnDOT is
Yes.
asking for.
It was afterward. It was more recent.
Well, they didn't rebuild the Gateway one, they rebuilt Frost Avenue one during that time.
Yeah.
Because I was here on the commission when we fought back and forth, and there's nothing there to save. It was all rotten out.
But the year, Rick, it was in 2005 or something like that, or 7 or something. This is from 71 to 95. So it was after that period. Okay, any other comments? All right, we'll move on to unfinished business, demo applications. Joe?
We don't have any demo applications in.
All right, good. Number 2, mapping potential historic structures. Laura, are you going to help us out?
Yeah, so I have been doing more work on the geodatabase because you kind of saw the preview from before where it was at. I've been adding more information. I've been confirming whether things are demolished or still standing. And there's maybe like 3 that I don't have enough information for to actually locate because all the forms are missing from everywhere. So that's something that I've told SHPO. There's a large chunk of forms missing from the Maplewood inventory in their paper inventory. So they know what's missing, and they're going to try and find what happened to it. It's like a whole section of files. So there's a number of things I don't have enough data for to fill this in, but the table you have in your agenda basically is what I have in the geodatabase. There's more info in it. I just kind of parsed it down so it could fit within a single landscape page. Yes, I do have all of this information. So part of it was all the information from the inventory sheets is now added into this. So the spreadsheet you have has everything from the inventory sheets added into one place. And that includes that white binder you guys were talking about at the Maplewood Area Historical Society. So I did go there, I scanned everything in, so we have digital versions of it, and I added all the data from those forms into the geodatabase. So every single structure I was able to map has any information we have attached to it. So this-
Also, on this form.
Rick, wait a minute, let her finish. Go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, so this form is familiar. Seems to be the format that was used mostly for that survey. It usually wasn't filled out. There would be like 1 or 2 lines that was filled out. It was usually they'd have a construction date, which was useful. That was really helpful, but not much more was filled in. So anything that was from the local survey was pretty scant. But on the spreadsheet you have, it does say whether it's SHPO inventoried or our local inventory. So anything that's within the binder or on that map we were given is considered our local inventory. I learned through this process too that map and the local inventory were 2 different projects. So that's also confusing because they don't actually fully overlap. So the map has some of the things from that binder, the binder has some of the things from that map, but they both have a number of things that aren't included in either one. So wherever that map came from is a whole different effort that I'm curious about. But it clearly used the binder. It must have come later because it was referencing things in the binder. So that's a mystery. There's also, I think if you scroll further down, Pete Boulay had forwarded along the Century Homes list. That's a whole other list that barely crosses over with the SHPO inventory and the local inventory. Because this form did often say, yes, it was nominated for the Century Homes project, but there's way more houses on the Century Homes list than anywhere inventoried else. So that, adding those in is a whole other project. And even seeing how many of those are still standing is a whole other project. So I didn't include that in this, because once I started to try and compare, I was like, I'm not getting this done before the next meeting. But it's interesting. I'm curious to see where all that info came from and what is still standing in Century Homes. So the spreadsheet that's in the agenda too, most things are at the top, but you'll see a color system that might help kind of select the next structures that we know now are still standing and could be eligible for National Register listing or for local formal designation for something we can pursue this year still. So you'll see there's a color code on top. So anything in yellow already designated, it's just the poor farm barn. Green means it's eligible for National Register or local, and an orange means, at least from what I could tell, it has major significance locally. So it could be considered for local designation. So I tried to organize it that way for you, and then we can see what we actually still have standing in that list. And all the information I had for that is now in this spreadsheet. And so I think moving forward, when it comes to trying to designate, we should start with a short list and select from there of what seems most applicable to work on designating. And then I can also share all the forms that are associated with that to give all the information.
Okay, stop there if you would, Laura.
Yeah.
Rick, what was your question? Did you have a question? Okay,
Well, 813 was not on any of these lists.
okay, okay. Well, we'll go through that. So Laura, just looking at the 2 lists, the 315 and then the 138 100-year-old sites, So you're saying that 138 might be in the 315 or a duplicate, or how's that?
Are you talking about the spreadsheet I have here versus the Century Homes list?
Yes.
Yeah, so the Century Homes it was definitely compiled from a whole different effort.
Okay.
And so a lot of what's in that list does not cross over with what SHPO had or what the local inventory in that binder had. It was two entirely different efforts, it looked like.
Okay.
That is included in this. So anything in that is SHPO inventoried. And all the forms from that are also in this. Yeah.
John?
Okay, I believe that I did this one. What I did is I have a picture of each house and they're coordinating with a map.
Yeah, so
And located on a map.
this is what's getting interesting.
What? Yeah,
Yeah, I'm sure that looks familiar. So I have this list. I see the map page numbers. I don't have the map yet, but it's something maybe I can follow up with Pete about.
I probably have the map at home.
If you have it, then I could use it to work on this and getting these located. Yeah. And it's something, it sounds like, somebody donated a large amount of photographs to the Maplewood Area Historical Society of a bunch of houses in Maplewood, and we're assuming it must be connected to this, because it didn't come with much information. So another step would be making sure, are those photographs actually connected to this list? And then can we connect everything to that map, and can we pull everything into one place?
Yeah, well, the numbers on here are the numbers of the photographs, because each house I took a photograph of.
Yeah. Okay, I believe, yeah, that makes sense, but the Historical Society doesn't have this list.
What?
Oh, the Historical Society doesn't have this list yet, so when he got the photos, I don't know what this actually relates to.
I went through Ramsey County.
Oh.
Each property, and it says when it was built.
Okay.
So I verified when the building.
Yeah, all the forms too reference the Ramsey County records. So anything I got that said Ramsey County, I'm sure is accurate. I think that makes sense.
And a lot of them that are at the society were done by Ann Fosberg.
Yes.
She went through, and basically every time we turned in one of them papers, besides John, went out and took pictures of the place.
Yeah, I remember Ann had a book, because I saw her book.
Yeah, that's the book that has these forms. It's at the Historical Society, and I digitized all of them. So we have one full PDF, and I've also separated them all up by address, so it's easier to search for them. So that's all in, but this is also the thing, is there's a very small handful of the full Century Homes list is in that book. So the Century Homes list is far, by and large, way longer than any other inventory list we have. So kudos. Big effort. But that means there's going to be more effort that goes into assembling this into the full list I'm trying to pull together of all of our resources in one place. So there's going to be more effort trying to attach all this info. And also, this particular list, it looks like it just says year built, which is useful, and the address. Were there other inventory forms for every single entry on the list, or is the list kind of just it?
Was this now?
Oh, I'm just wondering, because the inventory forms in the book that Ann Fosberg put together.
I went by how she had them listed on that.
Okay, because they don't cross over well. So there's some things in that book that are on this list, but the great majority of the list does not have any forms associated. So that's why I was just wondering if there's a different place those live, or if they live at all. Yeah.
So, Laura, question, what's the goal here?
Well, it seems like all our information is very scattered. And it's hard to know actually what is our full universe of objects that we're dealing with in Maplewood to help us understand, one, how much of each resource do we have, how old are our resources, and what can we focus on locally designating. So the fact that all of our data is so scattered to the 5 winds is a bit too much, I think, especially moving forward, as people like me come on, no one's able to answer me. What is our designated list? What are our local resources? And I've had to figure it out by myself. So this is mostly for ease of understanding what we have and for legacy information for new commissioners coming in. So pulling everything together, like the fact that you didn't have the list of what's SHPO inventoried is significant. The Century Homes list and the local list are 2 different universes entirely. So trying to pull it together, and once we have that, what's actually still existing that we can work with? So I've done that work for the SHPO and the local list from the Fosberg binder. That map that we looked at is still a whole different mystery of where that came from. And then the Century Homes is a whole different effort. So it's basically trying to collaborate everything into one piece of big information we can work with.
Okay, so if you just add those two, it's 453, so we're way under that, probably, because of the duplication.
Possibly with the crossover, but there's shockingly little crossover between the Century Homes and what I already have.
All right.
That's
So,
it was a huge effort, that Century Homes.
and 450, probably.
Yeah.
Something like that. Okay.
I've got a pile of stuff.
Yeah.
I'll go through and see if I can find all the information, because a lot of the stuff I gave to Jenny before this,
Jenny Genner?
and I don't know what happened to it.
Okay.
And it sounds like, because yeah, that seems to be the case, is each commissioner kind of has their own stuff. If we can bring it all together and maybe store it at the Historical Society so it is archived and the new commissioners can actually come in and get caught up on stuff and we can go back and reference materials. Because the more the knowledge is scattered amongst commissioners that end up, maybe they retire out and they like, P-Boulay is finally like, oh, I should probably actually turn in all this stuff that I have, which is appreciated, then we can actually work with it. When that doesn't happen, we can't do anything about it.
So fresh, coming on this, Laura, fresh, would you say that the majority of that information is out at the farm?
No,
Or
it's
is-
in your pockets at home. It sounds like, because,
Oh, John has some, but I
Yeah.
remember Ann gave me that
well,
book.
Pete
and I
had
think
a
I
large
turned-
amount.
Pete has something.
Yeah, so, and he got us this list, which is great.
Yeah.
We just got the photos at the Historical Society, which we still actually have to make sure this all crosses over correctly with the photos. The map, it sounds like, is with John. The Historical Society actually doesn't have very much. The only thing they had was that binder from Ann Fosberg. They didn't even have that map that we were looking at previous meetings, so I've given them a copy of that. So part of it is just we have to bring it into one place and put it somewhere everyone can access it.
So where's it going? Historical Society?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also with the geodatabase, the GIS data, that will go to the city as well, once
Okay.
it's all ready to go.
All right,
And you
Richard?
know where else you can look? Somewhere in this building. Because whatever went to the Historical Society, they made a copy, right, Pete, that was supposed to keep here in the city somewhere.
That's probably one place that map might have come from, but there still isn't, it just kind of showed up. So and there's like a list of numbers numbering everything on the map, but the numbers don't associate with that binder from Ann. I don't know if they'll associate with the Century Homes photos, maybe. So that's still a mystery of what that's from. But I also have the geodatabase here just to show you where that's at. And that can be a quick rundown.
Oh, hang on. Joe, are you familiar with what Jenny Gaynor had, where her files ended up?
No, I went through, I'm not sure where Jenny Gaynor's files went up. I did go through all, when I took over, we have in our shared database an HPC folder, and I went through that HPC folder pretty exhaustively, and I didn't find the folder. I think Chad Burgo, who works with communications, was doing GIS at one point and put the map you had together. That's where that map came from. But yeah, like she's saying, a lot of the stuff is kind of scattered around.
Okay.
The other person that you might want to check is Dave Fisher's, if he had any files stuck somewhere, because he was our original staff liaison.
Okay. Laura, go ahead.
Yeah, and I guess it just came to mind too that he mentioned it, is one of our jobs as a commission is not only to maintain a list, which that list is now finally pulled together better, but also to actually work on public education and sharing the information with the public. So by bringing it to MAHS and making it publicly accessible and saying, hey, if you're curious about, the historic homes of Maplewood, you can actually go to the Historical Society and learn about it. Maybe your house is on the list. Maybe you want to learn more about its history through this program. So yeah, part of it's also just making this available to the public for those who are curious. But yes, now I'll give you a quick update on where it's at. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not even looking that way.
Pete, do you want to address?
People A,
After serving 20-some years on this commission, right?
yeah, I know a few things, I guess. People A, 1100 East County Road C.
Thanks for coming.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, love to see the new people. I've been a big fan online, by the way. I watch all the time. Anyway, okay, Ginny's files. Before she left, I went to her office and got a thumb drive of everything she had. So I have a thumb drive of everything, and some of it I think I've already sent to Joe? I don't know who I sent it to, but anyway, anything she had, it's not GIS heavy though. It's just basically documents. So, but that can hand over to whoever. Joe, if you want a copy, or MHS has a copy, that'd be fine too. I handed over all my files of the commission to a certain point to MHS. So there's a banker's box of my stuff, and also previous chairs, which would be,
Bob?
yes, no, I'm not, I went to the Parks Commission.
Oh, Ron Cochran.
Cockrell's, and before Ron,
Bob
Bob Overby.
Overby.
So anyway, that should be at MHS somewhere, MAHS somewhere. So, but you know, if anybody ever has any questions on anything, just send me an email and I might jog my memory on something, so.
Thank you, Pete.
It's nice to actually meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys too.
Thanks, Pete.
Okay, I'll give you the quick rundown then. Are there any questions before I do that? Yeah.
Do we need to have some type of a motion or something in our rules where the things that we're collecting as this committee wind up in a public box and not in our houses? Because this would be a whole lot easier if things were being passed down. If you do something, you want to keep a copy of it, fine, but we should be turning in the work that we do, because we're public servants, and it's actually the city's property, not ours, when we're doing work for the city.
You can do that, David, but this is very enlightening, because since Jenny left, we had no idea where the information was, and then Pete was fortunate to save it for us. So
Nobody asked?
we
I
tried. We had
I brought a whole stack of stuff over to Joe, and I said, "Here, read it, Joe." "Oh, that's too much reading. Take it home."
It's probably pretty
Oh,
dry.
no, I don't think that's quite fair. I think Joe has been with us for a year, but prior to that, Ginny's
Yeah,
been
but
gone about 5
I
years.
brought him a stack like that of all the files from the previous board meetings.
Yeah, he's got a lot to do in Maplewood, so.
That should be our
keep 'em
responsibility
busy.
to tell our liaison, we're not kids. He's not responsible for what we do. We are. We need to do our jobs, and if that means you have to write a summary up of something you're going to turn in, you got to do it. You can't just go, Joe, do it. It's not Joe's job to do everything.
Well, everything I
It's
had was
our
printed by
job to do
the
our
staff.
job.
Okay, that's good. Well, it's good to
Now
air
you
it
give
out.
me more ideas.
All right, go ahead,
To
Laura.
go off of that, though, part of it is maybe we have to decide who gets physical versus digital copies and making sure that we actually digitize things. So maybe because the city has limited space for HPC paperwork, we give them digital copies of things, and then the physical copies live at MAHS if they have room to archive that stuff. Because it sounds like that's already started to happen, which is good, and we can work on finding all of that stuff that was donated and bringing it into one spot, and maybe getting that digitized so it's easier to work with. Because I can incorporate all of that into a geodatabase, and then that can get sent to the city. So it's all living in one place. But, okay, that's it. We'll think about digital versus physical.
I thought we should get the fire station and turn it into a museum with all the paperwork, because we could probably fill it.
I think the value of the fire stations at this point is a lot more valuable than a filing cabinet.
Not around here.
I think you'd
They
give
use
our
it too much.
All right.
finance director a heart attack.
All right, Laura, go ahead.
Oh. I'm just turning on a laptop. Can you pull it onto the screen? You did. Okay, so you saw where it was in its infancy, where everything was just kind of plainly mapped out. This now also includes survey areas. So any previously completed cultural resource surveys are now mapped in. Let me get down to the legend for that. How well can you see detail? You can't really see detail in there very well.
Ken, if you look at the individual maps,
Can you read the
so
legend
if you
over
look
here?
at the individual, instead of looking at the big screen, if you look at your individual monitors, it's a little easier to follow along.
Yeah, I'll zoom in. I just want to know if you can read the legend on the left. So that makes sense.
Laura,
Yeah.
go ahead and give your presentation, then we can ask questions afterward.
So you'll see the previous surveys legend here. So this big blue down the middle is from 2020, and that was basically in preparation for the purple line, which is why it's very focused down the middle. And actually, a large portion of what we now have in the inventory is from this survey, and that majorly centers on those 70s and 80s neighborhoods. So it's all things that are a little bit out of our range of interest for local designation or NRHP, but that's a lot of our inventory actually comes from that. So that's this large section here. And then we had another survey. We've pointed out that historic sites survey. That one was really impossible to map because it didn't describe where it happened. It just said, we surveyed Maplewood, and that's all I had. So I couldn't really give it a physical location. This other one, let me pull up the table so I can give you, oh no, I can just do this. This yellow here from 1977 is the Visual Reconnaissance Survey of Twin Cities Suburbs. So this is just each section I mapped. I took the description from the report and put it in of like what they kind of generally saw. They went over, this area seemed mostly to be a lot of old farmhouses. This area was very 1970s. This area is very 1950s. So that was the 1977 survey. And there's the orange, which was a pretty short section. This was for an interchange on 35E. So it just focuses on the freeway and literally only identified these 4 structures. So a lot of everything outside these survey areas are going to be from that historic site survey of Ramsey County that I can't draw for because they just don't describe it. And then a number of them too are going to be otherwise locally inventoried in your own local survey that the HBC and MAHS did, which I don't have an actual description for where that happened either. So I don't really know the ground that was covered for that survey. That's just a general lowdown of where things have been surveyed, what we have looked at formally, and that's actually recorded at some place like SHPO. Otherwise, everything that I have mapped in, like I said, everything that I had in any inventory forms is now part of the geodatabase. So this, I currently have all structures mapped by construction decade, just so we have an idea of like what do we have when. So it's kind of hard to see with how zoomed out we are, but it gives you an idea. It helps us see where our historic resources are. And I kind of also got some numbers. So we have 5 structures still from the 1870s, 20 from the 1880s, 34 from the 1890s, and 18 from the 1900s, and then it kind of diminishes from there from like the earlier eras. But the fact we still have 5 from the 1870s, I think is actually pretty impressive. And those might be really interesting to focus in on for doing more research on for the sake of Maplewood's history. So that's just kind of a quick lowdown of the kind of information we can get from this and pulling everything into one spot. It's not just for the sake of collecting it, but we can actually do a full analysis of what we actually have in front of us, a geospatial reckoning. So not only, like we can zero in on where you see these 1870s ones are. So we see an 1870s one right here. I'll take the surveys off. Right off Frost Avenue. And this is, New Canada Town Hall. Well, that's a shame. Let's find a different one that's going to survive. Let's go over here. Okay. So this must be, I'm going to assume it's probably an old farmhouse for how far out it is. All we know, the house wasn't considered eligible, built in the year 1870, but the forum was missing. So I couldn't attach any more information to it, but it looks like, this is on our local list, and the 81 means it was on that map and nowhere else. So the map knew it existed, the one that the GIS person of the city put together, but it's not in Ann Fosberg's book. Maybe it's in that Century Homes list, probably, but we still wouldn't have really any additional information because the list just seems to be specifically the list. So if it has this number, it means it was on that map, but I have nothing else for it. Things I do have information for, the forms are attached. So I'm just going to pull up, for instance, the Poor Farm Barn as an example, because that has a lot of things to attach. Right here. And so we can see it's orange, so built in 1880s. And if you go to this sidebar, we can see we have I have to select it. We have a lot more than 2 attachments. Anything that I had for it. So we have memos, we have newspaper articles. These are all discussions with SHPO about getting the NRHP listing going. We have things from the Pioneer Press attached, response letters, and the local inventory form versus the National Register inventory form. So actually, it's a good example of, I did get, this is the stuff from the Ann Fosber book, these kinds of forms. So these are all in as well. And after digitizing these, I did also send the digitized version back to MAHS. So they have that for their archive. That's basically where things are at with that. You have the spreadsheet in front of you of all the data I've added in, so you can do what you want with that. And if there are things you see are missing, double check that list and the Century Homes list before letting me know, and then send me any information you have on it, and I'll try and get it added in. But on top of that, the next steps I have for this, I know at the last meeting we talked about incorporating, which of these are on the 60 Stories of Maplewood book, what stories apply to this, which actually TJ had noted there's a photograph in the 60 Stories book that matches a photograph on one of those local forms. And so we already know at least one of the stories matches one of these structures that we have mapped in here. So that's the next effort, is trying to match up which of these apply with those significant stories that can give us more local areas of significance that we can focus on designating in the future. Getting the Century Homes mapped in and added, and then I'm adding a new field to imply which cultural resource report, which structure was identified with. So if you want to know how it was found, you can pull up the report. So those are my next steps, and that could take a while because it's a lot of research and digging, but that's where this is going to go. So that's kind of the quick lowdown.
Laura, could you go back to those 5 of 1870s and go real slow and pull it out, and so the people at home can identify those 5?
Yeah, I didn't visit all of them, so I'll visit the ones we hadn't looked at yet. Looks like we have one here, the maroon. So if I don't think I'm on the Wi-Fi, so the satellite's not loading in as it should, so it looks a little fuzzy.
Pull away so we can see
Yeah.
the neighborhood.
Pull away. So it looks like we're next to Keller Lake over here. So this 1870s house, I had one form attached. This code RAMWC13 means it's at SHPO. So that's a SHPO
That might
code.
be the little farm. Oh, no, it won't be. It's to the west of there.
Yeah, you can. It's this turquoise dot. So this is from that initial historic site survey. So all these forms I'm sure you're familiar with.
I think that's Ramsey's house.
Okay, is that on C?
741.
On B?
813 is Little's.
Okay,
And 810 on the other side, which is gone, was Little's house.
This
okay.
says 741 East County B.
Yeah, 741 would be, no, that'd be closer to Edgerton.
Yeah, that's Ramsey.
Is it that one by Swadas?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the swamp by the church.
Okay,
If you have additional info that's not in the spreadsheet, it would just mean that it wasn't recorded somewhere I could see it. So like this is the form we have for that house. And all it says is, here's the architectural details, Greek Revival, main facade with gable end, and just explains what the house looks like. Says it was built circa 1870, probably based on the style, if they're doing circa. And then if they had anything significant to say, it was usually down here. So all they're really trying to say is that the early Victorian style might be the oldest in all of Maplewood, according to this form, or one of the oldest. Merits further research, but that's all I had for this. So if you have more research on these.
go to the other 2 or 3 or 4.
Yeah. So let's look for the other.
We have all night.
So we already visited this one. We've got one. I'm assuming this would be a farmhouse based on where it is. So we're off of Minnehaha and Ferndale. see. Okay, so this one we can see, oh, it's from a 2003 report, so it's probably from that report that didn't explain where it was.
1876.
Construction decade circa 1870s. And then this looks like this was locally inventoried, not SHPO inventoried, so I only have a local form. So this was, well, that doesn't seem right at all. Yeah, it says 1876. The photo does not look like 1876. But it identified it as a Century Homes property. So it must have gone through significant renovations, or they put the wrong photo on the form. What do you say on the bottom?
Identified the source as being at least 100 years.
What's the address of that?
In 2003 was 127. So it must be it went through significant renovations. Maybe like this is actually part of the original building and they added something on. Because this, yeah, that does.
Laura, what address did you have on that?
The address is 2670 Minnehaha.
Oh, Minnehaha. It'd be on the south side.
Yeah, it's south side. So just, I'll zoom out a little bit, give you some more roads. The 3M complex is down to the southwest here.
Okay, you have a couple more there on the west side of Maplewood.
This is another nifty thing is you can query. So I'm just going to query for 1870 so it's easier for me to see where they are. Because it'll highlight them and put them into this short list. So everything that just came up 1870s is now in the short list. One of them we have, I'm going to go to this one. Because this description means it was on that map and it might have been from the local survey.
Highwood, that's way south. Way south.
There we go, yeah. So we're in this handle of Maplewood. And yeah, sorry, my satellite won't load without internet, so it's gonna look a little fuzzy. So this one, 2492 Highwood, year built 1875. They say it was a farmhouse. And again, I have a local form attachment, not SHPO inventoried, because they haven't surveyed down here. So there, a lot more information on this one.
Yeah.
Most of these talk about home ownership in recent years. It's probably hard to get really far back to the original history of the house, but another Century Homes.
Okay, go ahead, Laura. Keep going.
How about, so what I can do, and this is part of the attractiveness of this model, is I can actually export this data into a Google Earth file, and anybody here who's interested, I can send it to you and you can open it up on your own computer. So it won't come with the attached documents, but I can basically, we might as well make a share file for all of us online so we have all the documents at hand to use. And then you can pull up the site, go, okay, here's the address, I'll pull up the form at that address, and you've got it all in front of you. So does anybody use Google Earth or feel familiar? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay. So I can do that. Maybe I can go through Joe, I'll send it as a KMZ. Do people know how to open up stuff like that in Google Earth? It should just be, if I send it as a Google Earth file, if you just click on it, it should automatically open if you have the software downloaded. And then I'll send you all the digitized forms and we can find a way to make them accessible to the commission and to Nikki. Yeah, then that way you can explore on your own time.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Laura.
Okay, I'll close this.
Okay, let's move on to Maplewood visitor presentations,
If you can find it on here.
and we'll call on visitor presentations, TJ Maplewood Area Historical Society update. Welcome.
Thank you. It's been a while. It's good to see you all. Councilmember Viavisatio, Mr. Sheeran, commissioners, Ms. Allen, Mr. Boulay. It's good to see you all. I'm glad to be here tonight. Happy Volunteer Appreciation Month. So commissioners, thank you for volunteering the work that you do to make our community a better place and preserve the history of Maplewood. Particularly Laura, the work you've done has been amazing. I've been really pleased to have you out at the museum and work with you, or see you doing work as I do my work to put things like this last presentation together. So preserving our history is very important, and I thank you all for being part of that and volunteering your time and the continued work that you do as volunteers for the city. I'd also like to publicly thank my volunteers who are have already contributed 428 and 3/4 hours of volunteer time this year at the Maplewood Area Historical Society. So we're not even in our busy season yet, and we already have over 400 hours of volunteer time served with the Maplewood Area Historical Society, and certainly we couldn't do what we do as an organization for our community and our city without those volunteers. I wish we could hire hundreds and hundreds of staff to present the best programs and history possible to our citizens, but we rely on our volunteers. And it's a pretty special thing to be able to work with the amazing volunteers that we have. Not yet, Joseph, sorry. That's coming down my presentation, so sorry. Sorry. That'll come later. There's some updates at the Historical Society. But anyway, I want to thank our volunteers and including our volunteer board who has made the progress that we've seen over the last 2 years so amazing at the Maplewood Area Historical Society. At the end of this month, Amy Pashinsky, our Director of Events and Development, Kara McGowan, our Volunteer Coordinator, and I will be headed to Austin for the Minnesota Alliance of Local History Museums annual conference. That is Austin, Minnesota, not Austin, Texas. But we will be there, and while we are there, we will be accepting 2 state history awards for the Maplewood Area Historical Society. One is for outstanding public programming for the Hmong Language and Culture Camp that we provide at the Maplewood Area Historical Society. Again, we are the only institution on the eastern side of the Twin Cities that has had this Hmong language camp for youth in elementary and middle school. The other award that we received is for innovative behind-the-scenes work for a nonprofit leadership intern program. So we're really excited about that. I think there were 12 awards given out this year. We are the only organization that received 2 of them. So well done, Maplewood. I'm proud to be bringing those back to our community here and showcasing them up at the museum. We're at the end of hiring our interns. So speaking of interns, for the year, we received double the applicants that we received last year for this internship program, which is now a state award-winning program, which is pretty cool. So board member Sandy Dickey and myself have conducted 12 preliminary interviews with an absolutely stellar candidate pool for these interns this year. And we will be ending next week with 5 in-person interviews that will lead to hiring 3 interns this summer. So those interns are a really important part of how we run our organization, or have over the last year, and we're really excited to hire these interns, although it's already a very difficult process, and it's really hard to tell really super qualified candidates that we have to move on to the next round without them. So I think that speaks again to the programming that we do, to the reputation that we're building here in Maplewood. So I'm very proud of that. The internship program is a 10-week program that exists over the summertime. And we're really proud that we're able to pay a living wage to our interns of $17.60 an hour, which is actually $2.10 more than the Minnesota Historical Society pays their interns. So that is an important part of the culture that I wanted to build within the Historical Society here in Maplewood when I came on, and that's something that we're able to do. The internship program focuses on 5 key areas within museum work. That includes collections management, exhibit design, public programming, communications, and fundraising. So each of the interns works on a small project or a group project within that, and then a capstone project of their choosing as well within one of those 5 key areas. And in order to pay them, what we pay the interns. They serve as our camp counselors for 4 weeks of our summer camp, and that tuition is what pays for this program. Our summer camp is enrolled through the roof this year. I can't believe it, and that's what's allowing us to pay for 3 interns this year as opposed to 2 interns. We have our summer camps farm to table for grades 1 through 3, July 10th through 13th, and July 17th through 20th, which is actually filled. That week is completely filled. And then we have another 4th through 6th grade farm to table on July 24th through the 27th. Those are camps that are Monday through Thursday, 9 to 4 full-day camps, which is pretty great that we're able to offer those camps as well. We then have Arts on the Farm camp for grades 4 through 6, which is August 7th through 10th. And then we have our Hmong Language and Culture camp, which is that same week. That camp filled up in less than 24 hours. So as we are working hard to try to find additional funding to make sure we can express our commitment to providing this sort of education for our community, we have already well over 30 students on the waiting list for the Hmong Language and Culture camp. So I wish we could offer more, but our funding is somewhat limited in that, and we've been trying to find additional funding sources for that. So I'm working on that, so hopefully we can add some more students to that as well. And then we also have our Maplewood through Culinary History camp, which is for middle school and early high school students, August 14th through 17th, which is pretty cool. And then we'll offer our MEA camps again this year during MEA break, Thursday and Friday, and that is an Arts on the Farm day camp, and then an Architecture Farm camp, which is presented in conjunction with McDonald DeMack Architects here in the state of Minnesota. So that's an exciting camp program as well. We have currently 109 campers enrolled, and as I said, 30 students on the Hmong language camp. So that's wait list. So proud of that as well. You might notice I'm dressed in a t-shirt and dusty boots and maybe a little pinker than I've normally been before. That's because we are a month and a half behind in our year in getting the 22 acres of rolling prairie and oak savanna and the farm site, the museum, under order for us to get going with our public programs this year. So we've been heavily out in the yards the last couple of days trying to get some work done that we should have been doing over the last month and a half, but the weather with our extended winter has prevented us from doing that. So I came straight over from raking and doing yard work over at the museum.
You said 23 acres?
There's 22 acres of restored prairie and oak savanna, and then the
farm. I thought when I was real involved, Pete, you can speak up. Didn't they just give us 3 acres for the farm to work? So we weren't even supposed to be on the other 20 acres?
No, so there is, the farm site itself is on 2.5 acres, and that's what we call within the split rail fence, or the historic core of the museum. There is an additional 22 acres of restored prairie and oak savanna outside of the split rail that we do manage. So we manage the mowed trails, and we've done garbage pickup and that sort of thing. That's one of our partnerships with the city and with the Parks and Natural Resources Department, which we're really proud of being able to help with that. So that's how we manage that. Thank you for asking, Commissioner Curry. Yes, so we're getting ready for our public programming season, which is coming up quick. Our first event is our Big Red Barn Folk Arts Fair, which is a fundraiser. We cap our year, our public year, with these fundraisers, our Folk Arts Fair. We will have 120 vendors this year at the Big Red Barn Folk Arts Fair. So we have folk artists, a lot of food vendors, some food trucks. It is our biggest fundraiser of the year. That is Saturday, May 13th from 10 to 3, so I hope you can all come out. There is no on-site parking. So you will have to park down at Maplewood Mall or find parking in the neighborhood, appropriate parking in the neighborhood, and walk over. But we will have free shuttles from Maplewood Mall up to the museum. And those are also ADA accessible shuttles as well, so that we can try to be as accessible to everyone as possible for this event. We're extremely excited about it. It's going to be a great event. It is one of our biggest fundraisers of the year. So I hope you can all come out and support both the Maplewood Area Historical Society, but also our local vendors and local businesses as well, who are out helping us and supporting us through this event. And then our farmers market, our wonderful farmers markets, open on Sunday, June 4th from 9 to 1, and those continue throughout the rest of the summer till the end, every Sunday until the end of September. Princess Cay of the Milky Way will be opening our first farmers market of the season. So if you've ever wanted to meet a princess or royalty, you can come on out and meet Princess Cay of the Milky Way. We've got lots of really great historic activities that we're tying into our farmers market as we've done in the past, but we're adding on to that this year. This year is really about scaling up in terms of the programming we're doing. We're not adding a whole lot of new programming, but what we're doing is scaling up our programming and adding to it and boosting it up and making it better. And so we have Dakota Square Square Dancing coming out for 4 different weeks. They'll be providing family-friendly square dancing activities. We've got lots of other history activities that will be happening at the farmers market, and then all the favorite vendors and everything else. So we hope that you can all come out for those farmers markets as well. That's 17 farmers markets throughout the year. So that ends up being a great deal of our visitation at the museum. We see anywhere between 400 and our highest attended farmers market last year was almost 1,100 at one farmers market for 4 hours. So this becomes a very popular event. We saw last year people coming and basically camping out on the lawn, putting their picnic blankets out and spending the whole day, and heard some really moving stories at the end of the summer last year. I had one mom come up to me and she said, this is where my teenage daughter and I bonded for the first time, was by coming every Sunday to the farmers market. So aside from us providing our mission of educating and sharing and preserving and providing the history of Maplewood, I think we're doing some really meaningful work in building community as well. So that's the thing that I hope that all our Maplewood residents are proud of. We will be having at least 2 summertime teas on the farm. One will be Saturday, June 3rd. The other will be Sunday, June 25th. We will have costume historian and historical costumer Jessica Seigan out, and she will be speaking on wartime fashion. So if you're interested in 1940s World War II wartime fashion, she will be speaking about that. And then we have historian and curator Brittany Johnson out as well, and she will be providing a program called Hidden Gems, Photos from the Maplewood Area Historical Society collection. So she's gone through our collection and pulled out some really great photos. She is an amazing photographer herself. She's an amazing curator, an amazing historian. She does a lot of work for us. Some of you have met her, and she is an absolutely instrumental part of the work that we do at the Maplewood Area Historical Society, and I can't wait to see her program on our hidden gems that we have that really showcase Maplewood's history. This next one I'm super excited for. This is the one new program we are adding this year. I promised my board I would not add any new programming, and then I'm sneaking this one in. So we're going to sneak this one in. We've got a fundraiser scheduled for Saturday, June 17th that we'll be hosting. It is a 21-plus event, and it is called It's Like Maplewood's Totally Tubular 80s Prom. So we hope you can all come out to the farm and dress in your best 80s attire and relive the 80s prom of your dreams in the Maplewood Area Historical Society's 1905 barn. I think it's going to be great. We've already seen a lot of kind of buzz around it. It'll be super fun. So consider coming on out and supporting us with that event. It is not for everyone, but it might be for you. Friday, July 28th, we have A Draft from the Past with Beer Choir Twin Cities. That'll be our summer A Draft from the Past. Again, Beer Choir Twin Cities comes out. We sell beer as a fundraiser, and Beer Choir Twin Cities leads us in singing traditional drinking songs. And then there is also historical programming as well that takes place during that event. I think, Joe, you've been to A Draft from the Past. I don't know if anyone else has been to A Draft from the Past, but it's a pretty fun event. It's been a really popular one with us. We will continue with our camps and farmers markets throughout the summer. And then we have our fall folk arts fair on October 15th, which kind of wraps up our core summer programming. We will have a draft from the past with Beer Choir Twin Cities on November 22nd. That is Thanksgiving Eve, and that's actually been one of our more popular events. We fill the barn up, even though it's been very cold the last couple of years, but we fill the barn up and people come out and sing and drink beer and learn some good German and Irish drinking songs, and we talk about history as well. We will conclude our season on Saturday, December 9th with St. Nicholas Tog on the Farm, which I think some of you have been to, and that was an amazing event that we saw last year. I think that will continue to be one of our more popular events. In 4 hours on the farm, we saw 1,100 people come through for St. Nicholas Tog on the Farm. So we're expecting to do just as well this year, and hopefully we'll do even better as years come and we add to that program. So on top of all of our public programming, there's a ton of behind-the-scenes nitty-gritty work that we do. It's not just putting on events, and it's not just sitting there. I think a lot of people wonder what employees of historical societies do, and do we sit and just read novels until someone walks in? Do we sit and knit and crochet until someone walks in and asks a historical question? No, there's a lot of work, and Laura's well aware of the work that goes into making sure that we can provide the public with the history that we're charged to do. And so I really want to thank Laura again for that. And I think something also as the discussion continues within the commission about what do we do with our resources, where do they live, be thoughtful of the Minnesota Museum Law. There are laws in the state of Minnesota regarding where things live and who has control of them, and they can't just be in people's houses. It is illegal to have collections pieces in your personal possessions. So be thoughtful about that. I will just throw that out there for something for the commission to consider. And in piggybacking off of that, I think one of the things that I'm extremely excited about is we just received an amazing donation. And that is we received all of the Ramsey County Review and the Maplewood Review newspapers going back to 1951. So that's 69 years of weekly newspapers. It's about 3,000 volumes. They are bound. We are still missing some volumes. We have to find out where they are. We're working with the state of Minnesota and other institutions to try to make sure we can legally track those down, because we do have a deed of gift for those, so those belong to the Maplewood Area Historical Society. But aside from the newspapers, which are amazing, we received, well, I'll start here. 3 months ago, I would have told you we had 18,000 pieces in the Maplewood Area Historical Society collection. Today, we have 150,000 pieces in the Maplewood Area Historical Society collection. And that comes from a majority of the photographs that were preserved by the Lily newspaper in North St. Paul. And we received the entire collection of the Lily newspaper photographs going back to 1971. It's an amazing collection that documents visually the history of the Maplewood area and our surrounding communities, and it's an amazing gift. This is really unprecedented for a small organization like ourselves to have this. And if we think about 130,000 photographs which we've collected, the Minnesota Historical Society estimates that it takes about 7 minutes per item to inventory. That's 7.5 years of full work for us to inventory these now. So I just want to throw that out there for the work we'll be doing for a very long time to come, but it's worthwhile work in order to preserve this history. We are looking at digitizing all 130,000 pieces, and it's going to take a long time, but as well as digitizing and providing them for the public online, one of the big things that has happened is something that you are all going to take a look at first here. This is our first public viewing of our new gallery at the Maplewood Area Historical Society. So now we can flip to We're going to go to the, nope, we want to go to the other end of the slideshow here. Okay. Or I can control it, whatever. So we're going to go here. So I have no idea who this gentleman.
That's the guy, as a backstory.
Okay, great. I have no idea. So in our 1912 arts and crafts farmhouse that was built by William and Ida Bruintroop, or rather renovated by William and Ida Bruintroop in 1912, this is the parlor. And maybe some of you who are out at St. Nicholas Tog recognize this. Maybe some of you who have been out in the past recognize this room. It was a room that was used during William and Ida's lifetime as a parlor, which was a special room that was closed off from the rest of the house. After Ida Bruintroop died in the 1950s, Herb and Rose Bruintroop opened it up and it became more of what we would consider a living room today. And then as they continued to live in the house and Joan Bruintroop continued to live in the house through the 1990s, family pieces were added and it became very much familiar to what we think of as just kind of anyone's living room. It was a great place to kind of showcase some of the pieces of the Bruintroop family, but got lost on visitors, I think. I think visitors came in and they said, oh yeah, this is kind of like my grandma's house. And it is, very much so. But as we are growing as an organization, we're collecting more pieces, and we don't have the money to renovate the house back to 1912, which after a series of public conversations we had over this last year, the public overwhelmingly wants to see the house return to a 1912, kind of its original 1912 arts and crafts appearance. We don't have that money. That's a $500,000 project for us to renovate the interior. So we've talked and we've made some decisions about what to do for our needs. We needed meeting space. We needed gallery space. We needed to make a space that is a little bit more exciting than what we've seen in this space. And so we end up with, no, other way. We're going to go the other way. We've renovated the parlor into our new gallery here. And so this is the view as you walk into the parlor. The floor has been carpeted basically since 1951 in some form or another. So we ripped up that carpeting. We have the original hardwood floors, which just transformed the space. We took down the heavy 1970 drapes, which showcase these windows amazingly, these amazing, very expensive arts and crafts windows from 1912, huge pieces of glass, leaded glass. And we also have, as you can see, painted the walls from this, what was called antique wheat, to Gobelin blue color. Gobelin blue was a very popular color in 1912 and comes from the Gobelin tapestry factories in France, who were known for this bluish gray color that they were able to weave in very sort of shimmeringly into their tapestries. We've also gone ahead then and produced gallery framing for pieces from the new Lily Photos collection. So you can see here what the gallery space looks like. This particular exhibit is called Community Through Preservation, 40 years of photographs from Maplewood's history, and was curated by Brittany Johnson. So we want to thank Brittany Johnson. Oh, I'm going to go back one here. So we've got this space here. So it's a brand new space. You are all the first to see it publicly. And aside from this space, which we've renovated here, which has other historic details in it, we've also renovated our bathroom in the house, which was not a pretty place to use, I will say. And it was an old closet. It was an old closet. It was actually where the original 1891 stairs went up in the original 1891 house. After the 1912 renovation, they put in a broader, bigger stairway, and that became a closet. And then when the building was moved in 2000, it became the public or the staff bathroom. And so we renovated that to highlight some of the arts and crafts features of the house and make just a nicer place to use the bathroom. It was not intended to go public, but I was excited about it, so I posted a post on my personal Facebook page, and then the Minnesota Historical Society shared that post. So,
His private office.
no, I do not have a private office. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
that office,
I do not have a private office.
there's your private office.
So, anyway, the Minnesota Historical Society shared this post, which shows the before and then the after. So we were able to find a period-looking light fixture that's called a shower light because the light showers down, that also has a hidden bathroom fan in it that looks appropriate. And then the wallpaper is a reproduction of William Morris's 1890 The Strawberry Thief. The floor was redone, and we put beadboard and additional ADA hardware up as well. So you can see the new bathroom as well. I just wanted to share that with you all, since it's already gone public on the Minnesota Historical Society's Facebook page, but there we have it. So a lot has been happening at the Maplewood Area Historical Society. A lot of good things. I'm really proud of the work we're doing. I'm proud of the volunteer crew we're building. I'm proud of our board, and certainly proud of our staff, which include myself, Amy Pashinsky, Brittany Johnson, Calvin Malumba, Ted Hine, who are helping to keep the organization and the huge grounds under control and running for the public. So that's a lot, but I will gladly take questions or comments.
Richard, go ahead.
Got a couple questions for you,
All right.
of course, always. One, how many members are now on the Maplewood Historical Society?
How many-
Two, yep,
How many members?
yep.
I don't have an exact count of members, but I know that the last number that I know we did our birthday celebrations, and we received 26 new members during that 1 week. So I believe we're probably upwards of 220 members at this point in time.
Okay, and when is the annual meeting?
Annual meeting will be in August.
Okay. Because I have a feeling I'm gonna run for something.
I encourage everyone to get involved.
Well, we used to have one member here on the commission, or on the board.
Okay, thank you, Richard. Any other comments for TJ? Anyone?
Great.
Thank you,
everyone.
TJ. Thank you. I see Pete Boulay is still here. Pete? You're welcome to address the commission.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, People A, I already gave my address, 1100 East County Road C. Just a quick, of course, I got lots of questions, but I'm not going to keep you guys too long. Just about the previous agenda with the bridges. There's two bridges I had in mind that I wasn't sure were part of it. One might be too early and one might be too late. One is the what they call the most beautiful bridge. That's the Beam Avenue Bridge. And I don't know if MnDOT was looking at all bridges or just ones that had roads on them. That's one. And then the other one is the Arcade Street Bridge that had a lot of public input to design it over Spoon Lake. That might be too after it. I don't know. I don't know the dates, but just two bridges to put out there in case. The Purple Line studied the most beautiful bridge quite a bit. It does have a plaque on it. It did win an award with the Steel Corporation, so it might be something unique about it. I don't even know, but.
Was that 59 or when was that?
Which one? The
59.
1959? I don't know what year. That's the thing. I don't have I have them in my emails, but I can't do a search on it right now, so I don't know what the years are. It's the one the railroad had over Beam. It's by the old golf course, Country View.
Yeah, but didn't they put that one in when they put Beam in?
Yes,
that
when they
would have
widened
been
it to 4
around
lanes. Yeah, 1970 something.
Well, it had to be after 78,
Yeah, I just don't.
because I was on the fire department.
Okay.
And Beam Avenue was, and 61 was a stoplight or stop sign.
Okay.
And we were called there once a week, or almost once a day, for an accident.
Okay.
That's when-
Yeah, that was a bad
That's when
intersection. But
Parkside got their Jaws of Life.
Okay. And I'm assuming the other older bridges are already there, like Bridge 17 and all the other ones.
And that other
were
one
brought
was about the same, little bit late after that, because we couldn't bring our fire trucks across that
up. Oh,
bridge.
okay.
They were too heavy. They were afraid we were gonna go across and the fire trucks would end up in the lake.
Oh. Yeah, that's all I had, really.
Okay, good to see you, Pete. Sure. Thank you. Okay. Is there anything else for the betterment of the Maplewood Area Historical Preservation Commission? Anyone?
I move for adjournment.
First, I'd like to thank our staff, Joe Sharon, and our council member, Nikki Villavicencio, John Gasper, Richard Curry, Barbara Kern, David Hughes, Laura Koski.
Does Nikki have anything to say?
Nikki, do you have anything to say?
She's been quiet. She's sitting over there.
Well, we're glad to see you here. Thank you for coming. We have everyone here today, and we're still looking for a 7th commissioner for our commission. We'll squeeze that 7th person in here somehow. So if you're a historical person and you'd like to join the Heritage Preservation Commission, you can call the city and maybe leave a message for Joe Sharon, and he can get back to you. Anything else? We're adjourned.